Hi, I'm Will.
And I'm Luke.
And this is Will and Luke Discuss,
a vodcast
and podcast
where we discuss content related to psychology,
personal growth,
self-development,
and well-being. This episode, we're discussing
The Time of Your Life program by Tony Robbins. So this is a audio program that we both went through, and there's an accompanying set of worksheets and tasks that you go through. It's a 10-day program. He describes it as a 10-session program that you can go through, and it's I suppose the main gist of it is thinking about where you put your time, where you put your focus, and putting together an ultimate vision, ultimate purpose, and tying them in with a larger life purpose that you have. And looking about how, like, on a week-to-week basis, you can keep these in mind when you're focusing on targets and goals and getting things done. I'm not sure if you think that'd be an accurate way of describing it, but I suppose that's what I got from it.
Yeah, I'd say it's a program to try to get you to think about your life in its entirety. So not just your professional or your exercise or your romance or your friendships, just all of it. Just dump it all together. Look at what your highest values are. Look at, like, ideally, if you were spending your time the way you wanted to, how would you be spending that? Compare that with the realistic ways in which you are spending your time now, and try to shift from the mess you're in at the moment to the ideal you'd like to be in.
So I'd like to start off and say that I'd always been a bit, apprehensive of reading anything or listening to anything by Tony Robbins. I think maybe just the clips I got of him online or the way he was spoken about, he seemed, maybe a bit like brash for me and just a bit over the top. And I suppose I didn't really respond well to that initially. So I was apprehensive to do this, but you'd mentioned that you'd done it maybe 3 months ago, and I recently had a week off work, and you'd recommended doing this and saying there's a number of benefits to it. So I recently finished this a couple of weeks ago, and I really enjoyed it. I managed to get it all done in 7 days, and I think I've got something really solid that I can use on a week-to-week basis and something to reflect back on, especially in regards to my overall purpose and my drives, and how each area of my life has a set number of action plans and actions to work towards. So I guess it's a good reminder to keep my eye on the ball on the greater good, the greater goal of my life, my greater vision.
Cool. He kind of gives, so if I was trying to explain what you would expect, it's kind of like he suggests you listen to it in the morning, and like each morning it's kind of like a motivational speech or lecture he gives for about an hour.
So I've got to say, just before we get into this, this is like the 1991, I think it was, or no, it's in the 90s, and it was originally recorded on tape, and like the music at the beginning in the morning, it's like I found myself kind of like getting into it. I don't know if I was doing that like ironically or I genuinely got into it. But, I don't know how you. Sorry, I just cut you off there. I just think it's worth mentioning that this is like, it's pretty old school, and it's it does have the feel
of the 90s somehow as well, even though a lot of the content is kind of time irrelevant. When it says like, now change over to the other side of the tape, and the music is very like cheesy. It's so good. Live with passion.
So sorry, you were saying
I was just trying to give a feel for what you would expect if you didn't know what we were talking about. I guess it's like each morning you would listen to like 45 minutes to an hour of him. I think he's kind of riffing. It's hard to tell if he has a plan, but like it
goes roughly along with the worksheets.
He has he clearly has. He's clearly not reading, and it's not completely disorganized either. It's like a mix of like planned spontaneity, where he just sort of gives a speech for 45 minutes to try and sort of pump you up on the topic he wants to bring up that day, and then leaves you with a couple of exercises, an exercise or two to do that session. And so basically you listen to that, you do the exercises, and that's you done for the day.
Yeah. I'm interested to, get right into it. I'm curious what you thought about the session on day 2 around looking. It's called Time Targets Day 2, and he gets us to look at the different ways in which we use our time throughout a week, and he has different dimensions he goes through. I suppose it's worth me just explaining. Like there's the dimension of distraction, which he describes things as not urgent and not important. The dimension of delusion, where things are urgent but not important. The dimension of demand, where things are urgent and important. And the zone, which is the dimension of fulfillment. I found this exercise really, really interesting. And he says that, like, if you're not spending 50% of your time in the dimension of fulfillment, then it's unlikely that you're not unlikely that you're happy. But he says the happiest people tend to spend more time in the dimension of fulfillment, doing things that are important to them and meaningful and purposeful, but they're not necessarily urgent. So
it's not like a deadline that's due today. I think.
So anyway, mate, what do you reckon? Yeah, I want to hear what you thought of that.
Well, this exact same thing is in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I'm certainly curious, like, as to the origin of it, whether this or the 7 Habits was the origin of it, or someone else, or like whether they copied one another. But it just feels like I really like it. It's a really clean and clear way to think about tasks you do, but it also feels somehow very like management program of the 90s, which I guess it is. But so let's see. Yeah, urgent and not important tasks. He calls the zone of delusion. Well, not the zone, the area of delusion.
Yeah.
That I think is probably tempting for a lot of people, and I guess that's why he calls it delusion, because you can trick yourself into thinking it's important just because, like, it has to be done right now. I'm trying to think of maybe, like, especially in this day and age, like emails and texts and stuff. It feels.
Yeah, I put that in there. I put that in there. Yeah.
It feels like you should be responding to those immediately, even though they might have nothing to do with any of your values. So that stands up for me.
Yeah, it's for me too. Mate, if I could just get you to just maybe block the wind a little bit on your microphone. That'd be great. Yeah, thank you. Cool. Yes, I definitely found that in the urgent, not important section. I put in things like, responding to texts that don't need to be done straight away. Like travel, I put in there as well. Watching highlights of football games that I don't need to watch at that moment in time. There's a few things that ended up in there. I suppose it's like responding to things that, like, can feel urgent, but they're not really important at all. Something I found was in the not urgent, not important section, you put in things like pretty much stuff that I would do when I come home and put my feet up for like 20 minutes. I'm just fucking around just to, like, relax or kill time. And obviously stuff on that is like, scrolling through Facebook pointlessly, or, just pointless texting. And I put in there, kind of maybe unhealthy judgments and worrying about things that aren't important and that sort of stuff as well. I suppose based on our last podcast, one of the last ones on flow, I basically thought in this section, I want to make those sorts of activities a bit more flow inducing.
Which ones?
When it's ones that are like not urgent and not important. So the dimension of distraction.
Right.
So when I'm kind of, times where you're just like a bit tired and you can't be doing anything, and you just know, like, I just need to kind of put my feet up and just do nothing for a little bit, instead of that feeling like I'm kind of wasting time or just scrolling the internet or whatever. I want to try and make those a bit more immersive and flow based rather than just a distraction.
Yeah. I guess it's kind of has a derogatory tone to it, doesn't it? This area, but like when it's I guess it depends how you value it, because obviously you could say this stuff is not important, but when it's things like relaxing and chilling and just zoning out for a bit when you've had a long day, well, maybe that is important. Like maybe that's an important part of our functioning to have those tasks. So I guess what am I saying? Yeah, like if you've had a long, stressful day and you want to just like watch an episode of The Simpsons and chill out, like maybe, like what would life be like if you didn't have that ever? So do you know what I mean? It might not be unimportant. It depends how you frame it, I guess. But then there are times where you're definitely doing that for the wrong reasons. Well,
and also looking at the amount of time you do that as well. So I looked at my week and I thought calculated, as it gets you to do, like I spend 10% of my time there.
Yeah.
Like when I broke down my week, and I guess I just questioned, like, is that too much? Or if it's not too much, at least make those when I'm there a bit more immersive.
Yeah.
Like if I'm gonna just put my feet up and just watch crap on TV, like maybe watch something that's like really interesting or really captures me, or just fully focus on that rather than kind of doing 3 or 4 things at the same time. Like if I'm relaxing, I'm relaxing and relax. don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't.
I definitely associated flow more with the zone.
Of course. I think that was just my takeaways, that I want to introduce more flow-based activities when I'm in the dimension of distraction.
Yeah.
Going to the section on the dimension of fulfillment. Did you find that you're spending as much time there as you'd like?
No. I guess that's the point.
Do not carry on if you have to.
It's like kind of it feels a little bit like a shaming exercise. I know it's probably not meant to be that way, but it's like forcing you to look at where you spend your time and like how much of it do you spend in this time that's fulfilling, that's like not urgent but very important to you.
It did definitely stand out to me, when you think about, like, because you're asked to put in that zone, like what are things that you really want to be spending your time doing that are like purposeful, meaningful to you, that excite you, that make you feel alive. And it gives a really good speech on this. And I suppose a lot of us can give excuses as to why we don't have time to do these things, or why we don't get around to doing them. And doing this exercise is a really great way of going, okay, well, if I'm spending too much time like in just distracting myself or doing things that like aren't important but feel urgent at the expense of doing things that are important to me, then that's clearly something worth looking at. And
I think it's a really good exercise to raise your awareness and like raise your consciousness to where you spend your time. I think it probably like you probably need more to like, if you're really to try and unpack in yourself, like what is it about me? Like if I know this is where my values are, and I know I'm spending more time sort of scrolling social media, watching Netflix, or like just sort of being distracted and procrastinating, then I think this would give you like a bit of motivation and a bit of like a shock to the system, but I don't think it would necessarily help you really unpack your like inner conflicts.
I guess it makes you think about the degree in which you're wasting time.
I think it would help you highlight problems.
The one, I guess, reflection I had was in the urgent, not important section. So this is where he says we spend most of our time. So things that are urgent and important. So the dimension of demand. So things in there I put into like work, cooking, cleaning, shopping, life admin, and appointments like doctors or whatever. So I suppose my takeaway from that was like, with those things, I want to streamline them a little bit, see if I can like chip off a little bit of time, so I'm not like spending like 2 hours going shopping, or like, I think we spoke about this before, can I, instead of going to the shops like twice a week, doing like taking absolutely ages to do it, can I be a bit more efficient, go like once a week? Or do I need to do like online ordering to save some time? And when I'm cleaning, do I just set aside like half an hour, or do I get a cleaner in the house? Like there's so many ways I suppose we can streamline, even like the traveling to work, things that like I kind of have to do that are important. I kind of streamline. And also, for me with work, I suppose I've got set hours, but it did make me think about how much time a week I am spending at work. And I suppose I don't really have a choice at the moment, but when flexibility arises, it's going to make me consider how many days a week I actually want to work and how many hours a day I want to work. Because at the moment, I don't feel like 9 to 5, Monday to Friday is suiting me.
Yeah.
And that's me spending too much time in that dimension of demand. Like I have to go to work. I can't just not go or I'll get sacked.
Well, you can, but yeah, there are, the consequences. Yeah. It's always a choice.
Yeah.
There's stuff in there I had about like email where if you allow it, if you allow yourself to be alerted or alarmed or notified, then that can feel very much like a demand. Whereas I know at some point we intend to cover Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Work Week, and like he suggests in that you dedicate a particular time to responding to things. So rather than being alerted or notified, you turn all that stuff off and you just say to yourself, like, this is a time in which I will take control and allocate myself to responding. And then that's the time you open up the texts and the emails and the callbacks or whatever. And so then you're taking it out the demand section and putting it more in the, like, I guess, what would it be? Kind of like the zone, I guess, where it's no longer urgent, but it's still important stuff to do. I guess it depends on the nature of the messages. Some of them might not be important.
You can change something's urgency. I guess I'm thinking this out loud. You can change the urgency of something by simply rearranging your time.
Yeah, you can change it psychologically, right? Some things feel urgent when they might not be, like, metaphysically urgent. Like, you're deciding that they're urgent.
It's like these are now important to do between the hours of 10 and 11 on Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yeah.
Instead of making it something that's kind of vaguely important across the whole 24 hours
week.
of the day. Yeah.
And at any given moment, you could be alarmed or alerted. I hate that.
Yeah, I think that's something I've definitely taken the notifications off my phone. And kind of when you pick up your phone, like responding, like don't pick up unless you're prepared to respond.
Okay, so then that would be the area of distraction, I guess. Like when you're picking it up non-deliberately. So you could be alerted to something and then grab it. That would be the zone of what does he call it? The urgent, but not necessarily. No, the urgent and important, perhaps.
Yeah.
If it was important. Yeah. And then you could just pick it up randomly just to scroll, which would, I guess, be distraction. And then there's like deliberately choosing a time where it's like, this is my time which I'm going to respond to things, and that would be making it the zone for you.
So I just found that overall just like a really useful exercise. Look at where I'm spending my time and I guess making adjustments based on that. I'm interested to know, I guess a big chunk of the program is getting you to look at your areas of management in your life, so your personal and your professional life, and then he gets you to look at each category of improvement.
Yeah.
So breaking those into, I suppose he suggests having between 8 and 12 categories of improvement. I ended up having 9, I believe. 8. I had 8 categories of improvement, and within each of those, he asked you to come up with a ultimate vision for each one, your ultimate purpose, the roles you take within that, the resources you have, 3 to change. So 3 of the key things you need to do to, I suppose, achieve that category of improvement, and then looking at 1 year and 90-day results and outcomes. And, I suppose this is a point where it's worth mentioning that he calls this the OPA program, although the worksheet calls it the RPM program. So I think I do not know what happened there. So the OPA program is basically him saying you start with the ultimate outcome for each area of your life. So, for example, one of my areas is my body and mental energy. And then another one is my financial life. So they're like two examples I've got. And he says to start with like the ultimate outcome and then come up with your purpose. So like your reasons why you want to achieve this thing. And then going on to, chunking actions that will help you achieve that. So
it's outcome, purpose, action, hence the
outcome,
OPA.
OPA, yeah. So
or results, purpose, massive action plan. Which would be RPM. He changed it in the middle, yeah.
Yeah, he must have like fucked around 2 years later and thought he'd come up with a better idea or something.
So
anyway,
let me
tell
go
me about that process. Yeah.
So the idea is, if you think about every thing you do in your life, it could be, so it would come under some sort of like psychological category for you, whether it's like exercise or like going on a date with your partner or like visiting your family or doing some work or playing guitar, like whatever it was, it would come under some sort of category. And by having like a limited set of categories which fits everything you do in your life within it, I guess that would be an act of chunking wherein it all feels a lot more manageable now, because whatever you're doing, it fits under these sort of 8 to 12 categories. And I guess the idea is that you can feel a lot more relaxed knowing that everything that's important to you fits in those categories. And if you're doing something that isn't within them, you either don't want to be doing it or like you need to rethink your categories.
It's not important. Yeah. No, I found that really useful, I guess, leading on from the example I gave around one of my categories of improvement, my body and mental energy. Like within that is the chunked actions of, maintaining a good diet, structured exercise, sleep and meditation, and I'm able to kind of put all those actions under one kind of banner as working towards this particular outcome, which I find really useful. And I think it's a really good thing just to have, like, especially when you're planning your week and looking ahead to what you want to do that week. You're like, okay, like what outcomes do I want to achieve? Where can I improve? Okay, I need to put a bit more time into this set of actions or as well, Yeah,
to me, this was the central point of the program.
Yeah.
Like it's a thing that, because like you said at the start, I did this a few months ago now, and this is the part that stuck with me the most, like which I still carry these around in my head sort of. Whereas a lot of the other stuff I found, like I got really inspired for a few weeks and they all kind of slowly flitted away. So I definitely would recommend like this as an exercise. Did you do that? So he got you to put your life into categories and label them, and then he did the exercise of like changing the language of your labels to like really big and inspiring phrases.
I kind of did. I did do that. I might be a little embarrassed to read that. I suppose each one of them. I don't think I need to go through all of them, but for example, with the category of improvement, my financial life, I described, like, I put in brackets afterwards, like my power word for it. I called that one freedom. And one of them as well in my professional category was like my learning and practice. So, based around like wanting to be like the most knowledgeable and effective worker I can be. I called that one growth and knowledge. And then I got just one final example, my category, I called it my eye on the future. I called that calm security.
Oh yeah, what's that one?
I just find it. So my eye on the future, I suppose that one's really around me making sure that I'm thinking ahead. So whether that's, a bit financially or like where I want to live, or thinking about studying, or a bit about my career, and like making sure I'm doing stimulating things, and also that like future me will be glad that I made some. I suppose it can often fall under like the slightly more boring side of things. But under that, like, actions are, making sure I've researched all my options. So I've got like plenty of doors open if I want to change what I'm doing or go somewhere else. Saving money, keeping on top of life admin as well. So that's probably one of the least kind of in the moment exciting ones, but it's also stuff that you need to keep on top of. Like,
it's all stuff about your future and making sure you're prepared for your future.
Yeah, so I'm not like 70 and I've got no money in the bank and no pension and I'm broke. Like kind of just that sort of making sure I'm prepared. I'm like calm about it now and I'm secure for the future. So that's kind of one of my. So I did. In short, yes, I did try and give each one more invigorating terms to describe themselves by. But overall, loved this exercise. I thought it was good. It was. I felt it was a good way of kind of simplifying a program that we've both done. We've both done the self-authoring program.
Oh yeah.
Written by Jordan Peterson, and I guess that gets you to think about like your ideal future and your worst future, and then like having something to aim towards. I felt this was a way of like, in a really concise way, going like, right, in these 8 life areas across work and my personal life, what is my ultimate outcome? And then eventually, like, they contribute to like my ultimate vision. And I've got that on like a A5 bit of paper that I reflect on like Sunday nights.
Oh, nice.
Kind of, it inspires how I plan my week, and I guess it keeps me something good to go back to remind me what the greater good is.
Yeah, I think with all this stuff, you can end up like getting, like, if you get sucked in, you can get bogged down in writing loads of content and thinking about like millions of tasks. So it's always nice just to be able to zoom the lens back and be like, if you get a bit lost in losing the wood for the trees kind of thing, you can be like, okay, well, this is where I need to focus on these general areas. It's interesting to notice as well because like, I think I initially came up with way more categories and noticing which ones do I want to chunk together. So I think
categories together, not just the actions. Yeah.
Well, like, so for example, I ended up with one around relationships, but initially, like, I think I wrote down sort of family, friendships, like community and romance. And then I ended up just clumping all those together into one.
What did you call yours? I'm curious, because I did the same.
On the page I'm looking at, it just says relationships.
I called mine my new and existing relationships.
Okay.
So I called mine.
Hang on, I could probably find the nice cheesy label I gave it in the end, but clearly it hasn't stuck.
That's okay.
I called it Kindred Soul Connections.
Bloody hell.
Mate, all of mine are like that.
Oh, no. Oh, give us another couple examples, go on.
Okay, so I turned mind, body, spirit into Olympian yogic athleticism.
That's good. Yeah.
I turned like learning into relentless polymathism.
Jesus.
I don't think that's even a word. I turned polymath into an ism. I don't think that's allowed.
One more before I'm sick. No, joke.
Let's see. What's a good one? You probably already had the best ones.
That's all right.
Deliberate prideful ownership. So that's all about minimalism, like keeping my house clean, like making sure like when I buy things, I'm not just doing impulse purchases, but like I'm buying things deliberately and taking out the rubbish, hoovering the carpet, mowing the lawn, that sort of shit.
It is interesting to see how like you've clumped different things into different categories. Like some of those things you just mentioned wouldn't fall into like a category of mine and vice versa. So it's I just thought it was a really useful exercise to be able to look and just go like, here are my 8 life areas. I think, jokes aside with the language, I think it is really important to try and use inspiring language or something that sits well with you. I suppose I don't personally respond too well to, I guess, things that might be like sloganistic.
You're a cynical bastard.
Yeah. I kind of like, I started all of them off with my learning and practice, my connection to and love of life, my emotional and spiritual growth, and then had like buzzwords around them, to kind of highlight them. I'm curious to hear how you tied them all together into the ultimate vision it gets you to do after that. Have like a central vision for your life where all these contribute.
Oh, which day was this?
I think that's day 7, I believe. 7 or 8. Yeah. But did you come up with an ultimate vision?
I'm sure I would have done his exercises and written a paragraph, but clearly it hasn't stuck with me.
Okay. So I suppose
talk me through what you mean.
Well, you've got each of your ultimate outcomes for each of the categories of improvement.
Yeah, and then you tie them all together.
You tie them all together into an ultimate vision and an ultimate purpose. So I guess for that, I had like a paragraph that encapsulated all of those different ultimate outcomes.
Oh, I see. No, that sounds good. Sorry, that hasn't stuck with me. It's hard to imagine how you could do that without writing a book.
Well, it's kind of basically it's just like writing out in a short statement like each of the ultimate outcomes, because the ultimate outcomes aren't supposed to be like long and big in each section. It's supposed to be like short and sharp. So I guess what I've done is kind of amalgamate those. So I've got like a paragraph that I can go back to.
So it's kind of like in the 7 habits, they would call that a personal mission statement. I'm sure one of these is ripped off the other. I don't know which way around it is.
The other. I think Tony Robbins probably got a pretty big legal team. So cool. So which other bits stood out to you in the program? Anything else?
Let's see. That was definitely those categories of life. I mean, he called them. What did he call them? Categories of improvement. Yeah. That was definitely the biggest thing for me. The thing that 3-4 months down the line has stuck with me. So later in the program, he so far we've talked about quite higher up and abstract global map of our life. I guess towards the end of the program, he goes more into the detail of your day to day, how you spend your time, and then gets offers you to fill in this diary of the OPA blocks. So each task you do in life, so even if it's going to the shops, should have an outcome. So this vision you want for it, the purpose behind that vision, the values that underpin it, and then what that action actually is. And I found that, I mean, I haven't followed through with it. I feel like the time it would, I mean, he does defend this a lot, but I still feel like the time it would take to write out all your actions this way would almost be a waste of time in and of itself. But and he also has more on his diary. He has more categories than this to fill in as well, so it gets a bit overwhelming. But I did like the idea of thinking about your day and how those individual tasks you put in your diary actually fit into your major categories, so that you can then sort of think, well, what am I not doing today? And maybe that's okay, but am I going to do something in this area this week or this month? Yeah.
I think that's where it works really well. And that's where I didn't respond particularly well to the weekly planner in the way he did it, but I guess using these as an inspiration when planning my week, going, making sure I've got an even balance of each area, or kind of if an opportunity presents itself to improve in one of these areas, making sure I'm taking it and immersing myself in it fully. I think it would work pretty well with when doing a project, or you had a specific task. I think what I found hard with this is that at the moment, I don't, although there's lots of things, I'm working on and committed to, and, this podcast, going to work, trying to maintain friendships and that sort of thing. They're good it's good to have this in the background as a gentle push to keep those things developing naturally. But like at the moment, I don't have like a particular project that I want to work on. There's not something that's necessarily so kind of time orientated that it's kind of forced me to come up with like project planning. So I think it would be something I would use later down the track, for sure. But I don't think on a week-to-week basis I will be kind of writing out each action in relation to its goal and the purpose behind it and allocating time. And it feels a bit much, but
that's the sense I got. It didn't feel like it didn't feel realistic to structure your day so much with like, well, this 40 minutes will be spent here for this outcome and this purpose. I mean, everything I could say against it, he almost defended it as he was talking about it, right? Because, you know, some people would say that this doesn't allow for spontaneity, but like I say the opposite, because like you know what you need to do and they can be moved around, and when something comes in, you can calculate whether it's more important to you higher up in your values, and you can shift things out the way and allow it in and all that. But it just felt a bit too, what's the word? Like too detailed almost, like especially if you just want to get some small wins and you know you're wasting a lot of time, that feels like way too far down the line.
I think as well also I trust myself to get the things done that I believe I need to get done to reach my goals. I don't personally, I think for some people it could be good, but I don't believe I need maybe as much prompting. I can have a general plan for the week, have some actions that are related to a greater outcome, but not need to kind of keep on top of myself about it. And I suppose that does make me think about, you know, if I did this program, would I be getting things done maybe like quicker, or would I be reaching goals I couldn't imagine? But I suppose in general, like until there's like a big goal or something in particular that I'm really, really working on, I don't think I can plan it that detailed.
Yeah, I could also say that, like, because I haven't really given it a proper go, like it's not really too fair to criticize it too much. Like if like I went to one of his seminars or something and felt really motivated to do it for a week, then you could come out thinking like, oh my god, I'd never want to like not plan my week this way again.
I suppose it's, you just take what you want from it. But I suppose just to, I guess, summarize this section, like the main takeaway is like, when planning your time and planning your week and how you use your time, keep your ultimate outcomes for each life area in mind.
Yeah.
I found that really helpful. And I suppose just these ultimate outcomes are like, I feel like I'm just going to stress the word ultimate, but these are just like your grandest visions, what you can like envisage yourself being, like what you really, really want and how you really, really want to be. And it's quite, it's good to like have something to aim high for.
Yeah, he does really emphasize like, don't think small. Don't like allow yourself to think like, oh, it would be nice, you know, to have a slightly bigger flat in 12 years. It's like, no, like I want 3 mansions on these islands, like I want jet skis, and like it's like, just think like if you could literally have anything and everything, what would it be and why, and how would you prioritize it?
That does remind me, just a side note, that like some of his examples are just like, I mean, love the program, but like some of his examples are just really out of touch. Like, he was like, he describes this like dilemma in which he's trying to like decide what's the best thing to do for his ultimate outcome. And his dilemma is like, do I go to New York with like 100 of the world's biggest leaders and talk about, you know, like social change, and it'll be like the biggest event in history? Or do I film this private video on my Fijian island, which I've booked in for 3 months, and also I want to make sure that like President Gorbachev of Russia is able to like use my private jet, and I don't know what to do. I'm like, he literally talks about that for 45 minutes, and I'm just like, his dilemma, and I'm just like, man, I'm just trying to decide like very like considerably smaller things in my life. Sometimes I wonder whether he's just totally lost touch with like
No, that one stood out for me as well.
Oh my God, it was absurd. I couldn't believe it. He's like, so what I did was I got the private jet for President Gorbachev, but then I made sure that he was going to talk to like the kids of this charity I run, because I sponsor kids in like university to pay them to go through college. But then also when I was talking to President Bush, I'm like, mate, like, it just made my goals seem like shit.
Yeah, he seems so enthusiastic, like whenever you see him.
Yeah.
And he's clearly absolutely minted, so, but like he's still like touring all the time, and it does leave you to wonder, like, what is it like? Is he okay? Like, is there something like off with him? Like,
he's incredibly passionate. I like that about him. I think he means incredibly well, and he's really inspiring. And obviously he's changed a lot of different lives. I think I'm probably I'm a little bit cynical. So I guess it makes me go like, oh, what's his go?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So without like trying to criticize or gossip for its sake, I guess what I'm saying is if there is something like defensive about him that like really needs to like keep earning and keep producing and like keep being of value to people and like doing these tours, and maybe like if it was, for example, some sort of like narcissistic drive that just keeps him going, and even if it was the case, more power to him. He seems to be enjoying it and he's getting a lot of value to people. But like, if that was the case, then how transferable is his approach to other people? Like, could it be that it's quite a personal thing to him, and that maybe if you have that real sort of perfectionistic drive that you can relate to, maybe that's also quite helpful for you, but maybe to a lot of people it's like it's just not in touch with where they're at.
I think he's serves as a very good motivator and to kind of like kick you into action and gets you thinking big. And I like his the way he gets you to think big, like go for big things, like who knows what you could be. It's a great source of inspiration. Totally picking up what you're saying. Like, it's a curious thing when someone's kind of so
that passionate. Like,
passionate.
I feel very cynical, but I guess I'm wondering, like, he doesn't say this, but it comes off as if it's not really okay to be that way. Like if you're not living with that much passion for all your goals and purposes, then
what the fuck are you doing?
And it has a sense of exhaustion in it to me, where I wonder how that's not in him. Like, how can you keep going with that amount of energy? Like, it's it seems like it's more than he's teaching. Like, there's something in him that that you would need to have above and beyond following his instructions.
Yeah, he's obviously killing it in life, though. He's doing like really, really well.
Definitely.
There was a final thing I wanted to chat about, and that was his the section on day 9 around the power of decisions. And he's got like a 6-step decision-making progress, which breaks down into 4 key things you need to do, and then the top 2. Like, anyway, there's like 6 things. I basically used this the other day to make a decision.
Oh yeah, the OOCEMR 6-step process for decision making.
That's the one. Yeah, the vacuum. Ridiculous. So basically, like, I did it the other day. So I had a decision where I was really tired and knackered from work, but I work another job on like fortnightly on Sunday nights, and it's something that's kind of I enjoy doing, but it kind of is an extra use of my energy that kind of tends to wear me out because I have to go straight from the Sunday job, sleep over into the Monday job. Just in context, and I would have had to go back to my other job, and I was feeling really, really tired. So basically, I had a decision to make between: do I value my self-care, being rested, being sharp for my number one job, and being looking after my body, or do I prioritize making that extra bit of money and following that through? So I suppose I just went through his decision-making progress, and I thought about like my outcomes, which one was like most important. So I wrote that down, looked at my options, and then I looked at the consequences of both of them. So I'm like, okay, if I go to work, I'm going to wake up and be really tired on Monday, and I'm going to have like a bad night's sleep. I've got to go straight from one job to another, and I'm not going to be like sharp at work. I'm going to be irritable probably, and etc. And then I looked at the consequence of not going. I'm like, I can make the most of my afternoon. I can have a good night's rest. I can be ready to go. And then I suppose the two bits after that, evaluated, so weighed them up, and then looked at like mitigating it. So I was like, okay, if I don't go to work, what can I use my afternoon for instead? So I came up with like 3 things I can do that afternoon that would be like productive, a good use of my time, and put me closer to the person I wanted to be. And then also like, what ways can I save the money that I'm not going to make from that work? So like, what maybe some things I was going to buy that I chose not to buy. And then I guess the final bit was like resolve, like make the decision, stick with it, and know that you're not necessarily always going to be 100% right, but you've like gone through that process.
Yeah.
I chose not to go to work in the end because I valued my health, my self-care, my mental health, I suppose. Didn't want to burn out. So anyway, I suppose it's something I've kind of done in small ways, like weighing up decisions. But I thought it was interesting, the 2 extra bits of looking at like which outcome is more important to me now, and how can I mitigate some of the parts of the decision I'm making. So there we go. That's my little takeaway from that.
He really emphasizes on the second O of the OOCEMR 6-step decision-making process that one option is no choice, 2 options is a dilemma, and only with 3 options or more do you actually have a choice. So it's I
had a dilemma.
Yeah, I was wondering if you expanded that into a choice.
Well, there wasn't a third option. Well, I guess the third option could be.
You could have hired your private jet and picked up Gorbachev. There's always a third option.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. I guess the third option would have been like go to my one job, but then take the next day off at the other job, which like just isn't something I would do. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd be making up options. I suppose that's kind of what it is. Like you can make choices. But,
and I guess sort of like thinking about, I know you had it in another section, but thinking about if you were going to do the job that would have tired you out for the money, then thinking about ways you could have saved that money instead is kind of like a third option, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it was good. I ended up being really happy with my decision and making a good call. I think it was good to like clarify like my values and my outcomes. I'm like, I value myself more than just making myself tired as shit for like a certain amount of money that I don't kind of need. And it's okay. Like I looked at like my savings goals and I was like, okay, I'm on top of my savings goals. Like if I don't make this amount of money, I can, so it put things into perspective for me. And I guess, it's just nice to have like the greater good at the center of my decision, not just kind of going for more materialistic needs or grasping for that instead of looking at what's best for me as a person and my ultimate vision.
Was there also any did you feel any sort of should pressure, like you should go do it because they would want you to and you wouldn't want to let people down or anything like that?
I think that did come in a little bit, and I suppose that gets me thinking about something we talked about the other day around like I don't like have to go. I don't have to go to that job. Like if I don't want to, like obviously, like I've made a commitment to go, and there's an agreement, and I like the practicalities are is that like I am a casual worker there, so it's perfectly okay for me not to go in, but I just won't get paid. It's not like I get sick pay instead. I guess that was the centre of the dilemma, that like centre of the choice. Like if I did go, I wouldn't get paid. There wasn't like a third option of like don't go, but then claim sick pay or something. That. But no, it's interesting that like going back to like the area of like fulfillment and things that are like urgent but not important. Yeah. Like for me, the important thing to do was look after my body. Yeah. Look after my health. Although like work felt urgent and the time for the shift was creeping up on me, it wasn't like important at that time compared to my other needs. Yeah. Yeah. How does this fit into the bigger picture then, this decision-making process? I think it just gets me thinking about, like lots of small decisions throughout the day as well. Yeah. We talked about choice points in a number of different podcasts. I suppose just like when making decisions, just making sure you've got your ultimate vision at the center of that. I guess like it's forcing you to like pull your values in rather than acting on like guilt or urgency, isn't it? It's like asking you to consider what's most important to you. Yeah, he says like so you're not like responding to demand. Yeah. Like that you're actually like making active choices to do things that you want to do, that you find purposeful and that you find fulfilling. Whereas if you kind of just get just go where you're pushed, decisions will be made for you. So that was really interesting. Like I do have that's one thing he says in that decision making. He's like, you have to decide that I am going to solve this. I am the one who's going to like come up with a solution. And resolve whatever's going on. And I thought that was really empowering as well, to go like, okay, I could like ring up 2 or 3 people and like bitch about it and complain. And I mean, to a degree, that's what I'm doing now. But it's after the fact. It's fine. It's after the fact. Yeah, it's good. But I guess like it made me, even thinking about the 6 pillars of self-esteem that we did. I increased my level of responsibility. Yeah. Yes. Like, this is my choice here. Like I've got a choice what I want to do. I will face any consequence here. Like it's not about needing to turn up because I think I should, or trying to do the right thing by someone else's standards. Like it's me as the decision maker making decisions that are best for me. Yeah, doing it deliberately, and you can just, it's easy, isn't it, to just sort of procrastinate until a time pressure and then just like let the cards fall where they fall, and then you're just floating along. And I could have waited till like 5 o'clock and be like, oh, probably should go now. Like rather than like at 12 o'clock, I was like, right, I'm gonna make a decision by 2 o'clock to call up work and give them the notice they need to find someone else. Yeah. So I guess I've always had I suppose some difficulty with decision making. Often I can get quite indecisive at times. So I find that was quite an empowering thing. Oh, good. I might use that again. Yeah, it's just nice to weigh up things and to look at the greater good, I suppose. Yeah. Should we give us kind of overall thoughts of the program then? Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to hear yours first. I feel like I've. So I guess I think he's really onto something. Like I really like this idea of like taking time to pause, to really listen to your values, to work out like, not just to float along, but to think about your future and like what you would be pleased with having done, what you enjoy in the moment, how that fits into different areas of life, making sure you're not neglecting any area of life. And, looking at why, if it is difficult to allocate tasks and projects to the things you actually want, then exploring that, because
there's obviously some sort of inner conflict there. If on the one hand you're saying you want this, but your body's saying like, no, I'm just going to procrastinate. Like, what's that? Like, it's a really, it will help you raise your consciousness to problems, and then, I guess, as you were saying at the end there, take more responsibility and be more deliberate about where you spend your time in your life. I think the program itself, like, is, so that, I think that's, yeah, really good, and I still recommend it. The program itself, I think, is a bit, it feels a little bit unorganized somehow, although I just laid out a structure. Like, his speeches can often be quite long and always not very, like, often not very to the point, and then his like mnemonics and things for remembering stuff and categorizing things seem a little bit sporadic and like almost as he probably didn't, but it sometimes feels like he just made it up then. And I'm left with I feel like, given the aim of the program, I could have been left with more of a clearer structure in my head afterwards, but it all feels a little bit bitty, and like I kind of lose sight with how, how did that day 2 fit in with this daily work program, this decision-making task, and this, where it could have been given the aim of it, it could have been a lot cleaner and sharper. So like,
I agree.
This is like a few months down the line talking about it. So like, when I guess comparing it to books we've read, which are often like, I still, for example, the 6 pillars, I still have that cleanly in my head. Whereas I feel like I lost a lot of this later. Like, it doesn't have that like sharp chunked value that some of the structures of the other things we covered have.
And I think just to build on that, as kind of my reflection, like the one bit that does feel clear and does feel structured is, having the different areas of your life, the different areas of improvement, your ultimate outcome, your purpose for doing it, and chunking your actions. Like, those things for me they came at a really, really good time as well. Just, so I've done a lot of writing, reflecting, and goal setting, but I guess for the first time, I suppose I found a program that was able just to, although a lot of it isn't simplified, like this part of it was really simplified for me, that I can look on it like an A5 bit of paper and just go like, here is my ultimate vision, here are my ultimate goals. And that's like locked in. I can redo that, beginning of next year or in like 12 months time or whatever, but like to have that as a starting block to inspire me to start other projects and to do other things, that was, I think that's absolutely invaluable to have that, to really write down like, what exactly do I want, what are the things I need to do it. And I suppose, and part of the process leading up to that we maybe didn't talk about was like looking at where you are right now. Like, how satisfied are you with your relationships? How satisfied are you with your finances, your work life? And just maybe having, taking a step back and having a look, go, okay, actually, like, these are the things I want in my financial life, but I've never really articulated it. And here are the actions I need to take to do it. And whether that involves later down the track doing like individual projects, or, looking into, I suppose I'm just using the financial goals as one, like getting like financial advice or a new way of saving money or getting certain jobs or passive income and all that sort of thing. Like, whether it eventually breaks down into smaller projects, to have like general actions that are working towards your goal that you can kind of refine and fine tune along the way, I think it's going to be really invaluable. So in terms, I didn't go, as in depth as to plan every single part of my week in terms of like outcome and giving time, but as an inspiration to make sure that I'm using my time wisely and streamlining the things that kind of have to get done, but also I'm reducing the amount of time that I'm just wasting in distraction, doing things I don't really need to do that aren't important to me, and trying to spend more time in that zone where I'm feeling fulfilled and I'm free and I'm engaged and I'm excited. And using my energies for the right reason.
Mm.
That fires me up. That excites me.
Yeah.
That part of it. Yeah.
As a chimp paradox would say, it's helping you discover your stone of life.
That's it. Via the world of carrots or something. So next week I bought a Kindle. So
you've got it.
Yeah, I got a Kindle. Happy on that. Bought
Nice.
a couple books on it already. So next week we'll be doing the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. So
tying really well to this.
Yeah, we're hoping of doing a bit of a I suppose a 3-part series on, how would you describe it? Time management, productivity, and
lifestyle design.
So I'm halfway through that at the moment. So I guess I'll wrap that up over the weekend. Have some reflections for you next week when we meet again.
Nice one.
Cheers, mate. Enjoying this. Good stuff.
Yeah. Look forward to it. I'll see you next time.
See you, mate. Bye. The 6 Steps to Decision Making, the OOCEMR program.
Yeah.
And then inside of that, he goes 4 ways to resolve a problem. But R is like one of the 6. So in R, there's 4 things you need to do. It's like, make it on paper, be clear about the what and why, don't wait for clarity, clarify the outcomes. Then he goes on to like problem solving. Yeah. There's 4 parts to that. It's just ridiculous.
So it's the OOCEMR 6-step problem solving process, but 2 of the last bits of the process have a 4-step process within them.
Yeah. And then he's got like your what, like, and there's a few different examples of that throughout the program.
I think that's the kind of sentiment I was trying to get at, because
we did.
It's not fair to say it's unstructured, because on the one hand he's going for lots of structure, but it's like he has all these mini structures all over the place, and then so it's like each little bit, like if you take the R of the OOCEMR 6-step decision making process, and you take the 4-step thing from that of the resolve aspect, then maybe that is structured. But like when you take the 10 days as a whole, and you've got like these buildings of structure floating all over the place, that what I'm saying is like the entirety of it doesn't feel joined in any way.